Hi everyone, we are from Group 4. Our topic issue is right to disconnect. So, should Malaysia introduce new legislations to allow workers to not receive or answer any work-related email calls or messages outside of normal working hours? Now, I would like to invite my teammates and Pozo to share about their ideas.
Hello everyone, my name is Empozo and my MAC number is 278496. I strongly support the implementation of legislations on this subject in Malaysia because the current Malaysia workers are occupied by too much time. Especially after work time, they still need to be under the boss. This situation is not healthy and not conducive to the development of society. So, the work-life balance is encouraged by everyone. It also can help us to improve our physical health, complete tasks with higher efficiency, develop career more smoothly, and have more creativity. However, with more overtime hours, people have begun to lose a serious balance between the work and life. So, I hope we can choose the law to protect and help employees' right to disconnect from work. As internet technology accelerates, companies are sacrificing the physical and mental health for their employees. A study by Relate Malaysia found that 29% of 4.57 million working adults reports poor mental health. According to Malaysia's labor law, every employee should not be required by employer to work more than 12 hours in a day, including overtime hours. However, the population of work from home have greatly lengthened the dense employer working hours. The work without hours have resulted in many workers suffering from muscle soreness because they sitting too long time. We can see the data in diagram show that have 201 cases of occupations musculoskeletal disorder. Then the group of 20 to 24 years is the highest, 1.6% per thousand workers in the rate of occupations injuries. This all data show the current intensity of social work is taking a serious toll on everyone. The popularity of mobile phone and Wi-Fi make life and work impossible to separate. Your boss and colleagues can contact you at any time. As a result, more and more workers try to disconnect. But they're afraid that behavior will become not ethical in the company. Opposite, this situation encourages bosses to behave in ways like requiring reports after working hours. They are not ethical. We need to stop the madness of forced overtime. I believe the law will help employees to refuse the response to work message after working hours. It also is a reminder to bosses understand rest is a human right for every employee. It's possible to achieve a work-life balance without lowering your standard. Therefore, our country should implement the right to disconnect regulation as soon as possible to ensure that people can have a healthy working environment. That's all for me. Thank you.
Before I begin, let me introduce myself. My name is YUIN and my matrix number is 278680. The right to disconnect refers to an employee capacity to disconnect from work and any other job-related contact after working hours. Since everyone have a distinct viewpoint, I do not think that they have a standard answer or statement to this query or issue. In essence, I am agreeing and support with the right to disconnect. They have some factual evidence and moral theory about this issue. Some governments have required to legislate the right to disconnect as firms adopt remote work more and more after the outbreak. As an example, Iran provides a legal right for employees to not reply during non-work hours on April 1. The Parliament of the European Union supported a similar idea in January, and Canada is also considering the right to disconnect regulation. Currently, there is no legislation that forbids or discourages business from contacting workers after hours. The recently proposed amendments to the Employee Act of 1955 and the Occupation Safety and Health Act of 1994 do not address this issue. From my perspective, Malaysia should adopt new legislation permit employees to avoid getting or responding to any emails, call or messages about the job outside of the regular working hour, which should also be recognized as a new right of employee. In this issue, I have made the moral decision which is related to the moral theory of employee rights and support with the moral value of responsibilities, tolerance and effective communications. As an employee, I will make an effort and patience to discuss the situation with my employer so that we can come to a mutual understanding without disagreement or controversy. Additionally, I will give the reason and continue stand for employee rights, which under the human rights. Employee rights are the policy and guidelines that regulate the engagement between employer and their workers. So, employers are required by law to follow specific guidelines. This is because employees should have the independent decision making and free time. Employees are required to reject or disregard tasks or measures except it is urgent or necessary. Hence, employees have moral entitlements to which they have a claim regardless of any particular legal or contractual conditions. At the same time, they have a moral judgment and standard which are moral responsibility of employee to company. Employees have obligation to the employee, such as following instructions, meeting expectations and fulfilling calls assigned by the boss even after the works. Because, as a worker, we have a legal and moral duty to assist the boss in reducing the strain and resolving the difficulties, and we are paid for the salary. Therefore, it is inappropriate to enact a statute in Malaysia penalizing employees that contact their employee outside of office hours. While employees likewise have obligation to their jobs, employers have the moral responsibility of business to employee. As an employer, we should concern about the feeling of employees. Nowadays, the underlying notion of the right to disconnect is employees' mental health difficulties. A recent survey found that 51% of the 17,595 workers surveyed face work-related pressure and 53% get fewer than 7 hours of sleep each night. 92% of Malaysians say that fear losing their employment. A 2020 survey also found that Malaysia have a greater than normal percentage of workers working from home during the COVID pandemic, and the greatest percentage of employees reporting substantial level of conscience. Therefore, we can give them plenty of time to rest, relax, and play, preventing them from compromising their health due to worry or stress caused by the overwork. Moreover, it is not only about fair compensation and acceptable working conditions. There should be genuine and long-term care for employees' well-being. To sum up, it is essential to have the right to disconnect. Nevertheless, it cannot and will not be implemented in a direct way.
Hello everyone, I'm YUIN. My metric number is 278724. Today, I would like to share my moral judgment on the topic: should Malaysia introduce new legislation to allow workers to not receive or answer any work-related emails, calls, or messages outside of normal working hours? Fundamentally, I support with the statement. From the perspective of being an employee, my moral decision on this issue is to complete my tasks during my working hours, and as for any work-related messages sent by the employer or the work order after work, if it is not emergency, I will ignore it and deal with it during the next day working hours. This moral decision would support by the moral value of responsibility and the moral theory of employee rights. There is a moral judgment focused on employee responsibilities, as well as an emphasis on individual self-responsibility. Employees should perform their duties with care and seriousness, manage their own working time to complete tasks on time, and completely cooperate with the company. I will take my work seriously during working hours and finish the task within time, which is my responsibility to myself and my work. This is supported by the moral responsibility of employees to work. Employees have a legal and moral duty to act ethically in relation to their employer. Employees must be ethical in their actions, such as being loyal, respecting work time, and being courteous. Workers must recognize their moral responsibilities to themselves. It was to execute the contract's obligations and execute the finest work possible. Moreover, employers are not granted the right to infringe on their workers' personal space and time. Recent research has demonstrated that frequent workplace expectations are harmful to employee health. Employees suppose are physically and emotionally exhausted and tired after a full day's labor. After work, it is the right of an employee not to deal with things at work and use their free time to recuperate and renew their physical strength. Employers should not deprive workers of that free time and expect them to continue working after work without being paid. Work-life integration is frequently jeopardized for employees. A recent poll found that 35% of traditionally office-based professionals stated their mental health had deteriorated since they began working remotely during the epidemic. To preserve workers' work-life harmony, well-being, health, and effectiveness, government must protect them and incorporate the legal issue of the right to disconnect. Most workers, even managers, support the right to disconnect law and indicate a wish to slow down their pace of life. This is the end of my speech. Thank you very much for being here. I will pass to the next presenter.
Good day, doctor. My name is SHU-JUN and my metric number is 27835. I personally agree that time outside of work belongs to the individuals and should not be taken by the company. Most employers these days are looking for work-life balance, and their motivation for earning money is not only to supplement their families, but also to reward themselves for their long-term efforts. Taking time away from the employee is unethical and undermines a healthy company culture. Of course, I don't put my statements applying to all areas of work, such as the police, the military, and the frontline medical teams who have to do their best for their patient and social responsibility. However, apart from these workers who are always maintaining vigilance, I think it is also worth to mention if employers are willing to work overtime or to use their personal times to make progress in their work. We cannot criticize everyone's interest in their works with the same views because of our own distaste. There is no denying that some people, even though they know the difficulty of the works and the lack of freedoms of time, are still determined to choose their professions. And I believe the joy their works bring them overweights their personal enjoyments of life. The following demonstrates a research on impact of working environments on job satisfaction, research by Abdul Razib. The study employed a quantitative methodology. Data was collected through a self-administrated survey questionnaire. According to Worms, job satisfaction is an orientation of emotions that employers possess towards roles they are performing at the workplace. Job satisfaction is the essential components for employee motivation and encouragement towards the better performance. Clark argued that if employers are not satisfied with the tasks assigned to them, they are not certain about factors such as their right, working conditions are unsafe, co-workers are not cooperative, supervisors is not giving them respect, and they are not considered in the decision-making process, resulting them to feel separate from the organizations. In fact, we must understand that workplace problem in Malaysia is caused by the social environments and economic conditions, and the complexities and the interconnectedness of the issues cannot be solved overnight. We must also accept the fact that higher education is given high-paying jobs. Therefore, as described in the dilemmas of Malaysia SME, if SME wants to hire employee to multitask with unstable work hours, then the person in charge to recruitment must describe in details the job descriptions and responsibilities during the hiring process so that the employee can make a better comparisons and move to the right positions for him or her. It is not ethical for a company to deliberately consult its job descriptions during the hiring process and then exploit the workforce by creating unequal terms and conditions, such as adding unpaid hours or deducting the salaries of uncorporate employees after they have joined. While I don't agree that personal time is taken away from work, creating rules that prohibits it will only leads to more work coming in the closer to the end of the day, making it harder to tell if the company is taking personal time away from employee. The company could claim that the work is given during the employee working hours and that is the employee fault if the work is not completed. Instead of creating rules and regulations that prohibit broad notification from taking up employees' personal time, I think it would be better to strengthen the practicalities of labor laws and create labor laws that are appropriate from different types of work, so that employer and company can mutually benefit from each other which would also have a good effects on the Malaysia economy. Thank you. I will pass to the next presenter.
Good day, my name is JIANG and my metric number is 279363. According to my moral judgment, new registration to allow employees to not answer all work-related emails, messages, or even calls are morally right. This is because employees have their right to not answer or reply all work-related message or email after working hours. However, many employees will choose to compromise and accept all unfair treatment in order to keep their jobs. However, this unhealthy culture of sending work-related messages or emails outside of working hours is only gradually exacerbated by the silence of employees. Therefore, the government need to speak up for employees through legislation that introduce the right to disconnect so that the rights and interests of employees can be protected. Whether it's colleges or boss, they should try to avoid sending work-related emails outside of working hours. This because this move will increase the psychological burden on employees, then it may make employees burn out easily. Gradually, the quality of their work will also decline, and the interest and profit of the company will also negatively affected. And the blurred line between the work and home life can burden the employees and lead to burnout. So the company should not ignore employee burnout because it can negatively affect employees emotionally and physically. For example, the burnout causes the employees to experience emotional instability and increase the stress of employees. From the research in internet, 75% of the employees experience burnout due to overtime work, and 63% of employees call in sick due to burnout. These employees are working from home during the coronavirus outbreak, and however, their workload at that time was several times higher than before, which also caused their working hours to occupy most of their life. Even after working hours, they are still busy responding to work-related emails and messages. Therefore, the government needs to introduce right to disconnect registration so that the interests of employees can be protected. In addition, employees have the right to regular working hours. Indeed, today's digital technology allows employees to work anytime, anywhere, but employees are still human beings. They can't check the emails and messages all the time like robots. And since the outbreak of coronavirus, people have started to choose to work from home. And however, instead of making things easier for employees, this has added to their workload, forcing them to spend more time at work than at home. And for example, employees who work from home have lost their original work schedule and replace it with endless work. Employees receive job-related information and emails day and night. It also derives them of the rest time that should be belongs to them. Eventually, the working time and family life of employees are completely blurred. And in fact, employees need rest and personal space. For example, the parents, beside of working, they also need time to take care of their children. They need time. They need time to eat with their children, communicate, and even help their children homework. Therefore, the registration to introduce right to disconnect are very important to protect and improve the quality of employees' life.
Good day, Doctor. My name is TEOH, matrix number 281218. In my moral judgment, I personally strongly agree with the implementation of the new legislations. Employees have the right to not answer and reply to any calls, message, and email outside office hours. Nowadays, most of the employees contribute all the time to work and do not have time to enjoy their life. All work and no play make wise men endure with the lapse of time. I believe that there should be a distinct boundary between work and personal life. Employees have the right to turning off company phone and declining to answer any calls, messages, or email related to their job. It is to ensure employees can utilize their time effectively to enjoy life and spend time with family and friends. Those who really enjoy their free time outside of work have better mental and physical health. It is unethical for employers or managers to disrupt their employees' or co-workers' personal time. Although Malaysia has many public holidays, the majority of private companies do not permit their employees to take advantage of this day off. For salespersons and online customer service, they almost spend all the time to serve customers. It is nothing unusual in Malaysia for working hard during holidays. In 2022, it was discovered that KL is the third most overworked city in the world, behind Dubai and Hong Kong, who took the top of 2 spots. Thus, Malaysia should put into efforts this new legislation and make reference to those nations that value work-life balance, such as Oslo in Norway, Bern in Switzerland, and Helsinki in Finland. Besides, most of the employers want their employees to reply to any message as soon as possible, no matter if it is outside working hours at 9/11. It is seriously affecting the lifestyle of employees. They can't even sleep well or enjoy free time with family and friends. This is due to the constant anxiety over when their boss will contact them. Employees struggle to distinguish clearly between work and personal life, especially when working from home. The majority of the time, employers seek overtime work from their workers without providing any additional compensation, which has a significant negative impact on the employee's personal life. In addition, 63% of Malaysian workers reportedly find it difficult to strike a balance between work and life, either significantly or somewhat. Consequently, some kind of action is necessary and perhaps even overdue. It will not be possible for the right to disconnect to be implemented in an easy way, depending on the sector and type of business. There ought to be some exemption and derogation. That's all for my moral judgment. Thank you.